What if I told you that the way your baby screams when their bedtime routine breaks isn't a tantrum at all, but something much deeper, something almost primal, hiding inside their tiny developing brain? Have you ever noticed how your baby calms down the moment you start the same 3 steps every night, the same bath, the same song, the same dim light, as if some invisible switch inside them just clicked into place? It feels almost magical, doesn't it? Like they know something we don't. And in a way they do. Because behind that small, sleepy face is a brain that is working harder than almost any computer on Earth, forming over 1 million new neural connections every single second in the first few years of life. Imagine standing in a room with 1,000 new sounds, faces, smells, and feelings hitting you all at once every single day, with no way to explain any of it to yourself. That is what being a baby feels like. The world is a storm of unknowns, and their brain has no map yet to understand where anything begins or ends. This is where routine becomes something far more powerful than a parenting trick. It becomes a lifeline. When a baby experiences the same sequence of events again and again, their brain starts to build tiny bridges of prediction, little internal signals that whisper, "I know what happens next." And that whisper, as small as it sounds, is one of the most comforting feelings a human being can ever have. Psychologists call this a sense of predictability. And it turns out predictability is directly linked to how safe a baby feels in their environment. Think about it from their point of view for a moment. They cannot speak. They cannot explain their fears. They cannot even fully see clearly in the first few weeks of life. All they have is pattern and repetition to make sense of an overwhelming world. So when the same lullaby plays before sleep, or the same blanket appears before nap time, their nervous system begins to relax because their brain finally has something solid to hold on to in a world that otherwise feels like constant chaos. Here is where the first twist comes in, something most parents never realize. Routine is not just about comfort. It is actually shaping how your baby's brain regulates stress. Every time a predictable pattern is followed, their body releases lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, and higher levels of oxytocin, the hormone linked to bonding and safety. In other words, routine is not just soothing your baby in the moment, it is literally training their nervous system to handle stress better in the future. This is not something we can see with our eyes, but it is happening deep inside their biology every single day, shaping how they will respond to uncertainty, even years later in life. Now picture this simple, relatable moment. A mother is packing for a short trip, and everything is going smoothly until she realizes she forgot her baby's favorite blanket at home. Within minutes, the baby who was calm just an hour ago becomes inconsolable, not because the blanket itself is magical, but because it was part of a predictable pattern their brain relied on to feel secure. To us, it looks like a small object. To their brain, it is an anchor in an unpredictable world. This is why babies do not just prefer routine, they emotionally depend on it, the same way we as adults feel unsettled when our own daily rhythm is suddenly disrupted, like when a flight gets delayed or when we wake up in an unfamiliar place. The difference is, babies do not have the emotional tools yet to calm themselves down the way adults do, so routine becomes their built-in coping mechanism, something psychologists refer to as an external regulator for an internal system that is still developing. But here comes the second twist, the one that changes how we should think about parenting altogether. Many parents believe that keeping a baby entertained with new toys, new sounds, or new experiences constantly is what stimulates healthy brain development. And while novelty does play an important role in learning, too much unpredictability without any anchor of routine can actually increase anxiety in infants rather than curiosity. Their brain needs a balance, a foundation of predictable safety, so that when new experiences do come, they can explore them without feeling overwhelmed. It is almost like giving a child a sturdy home base before sending them out to play in a new neighborhood. Without that home base, every new experience feels less like an adventure and more like a threat. This single insight is why some babies cry uncontrollably in new environments, while others who have a strong routine at home are able to adapt much faster because the nervous system trusts that even in unfamiliar places, some things will remain the same. And this leads us to a beautiful, almost poetic realization about who we are as human beings from the very beginning of our lives. Long before we understand language, long before we can express love or fear in words, our very first lessons about the world are lessons about safety and trust, built silently through repetition and rhythm. Every bedtime story, every same-time meal, every consistent morning routine is quietly teaching your baby one powerful lesson: that the world, despite its chaos, can be trusted to make sense. And that lesson does not disappear as they grow older. It becomes the emotional foundation for how they handle stress, relationships, and uncertainty for the rest of their life. Psychologists believe that children who experience consistent routines in early childhood often grow into adults with a stronger sense of emotional security, simply because their brain learned early on that predictability equals safety, and safety equals the freedom to explore, learn, and grow without fear. So the next time your baby cries because their bedtime routine changed, or because their favorite spoon was replaced with a new one, remember, this is not stubbornness, this is not overreaction. This is a small, developing brain trying to hold on to the one thing that makes an overwhelming world feel safe, familiar, and predictable. In a strange and beautiful way, every routine you build with your baby today is not just about sleep schedules or meal times. It is about quietly teaching them one of the most important lessons a human being can ever learn: that even in an unpredictable world, there can be moments of certainty, comfort, and love. And maybe that is the real secret behind why babies love routine so much, not because they fear change, but because deep inside, they are learning how to trust the world, one repeated moment at a time. If this made you see your baby's little habits in a whole new light, imagine what other hidden psychology is happening inside their mind every single day. Subscribe for more mind secrets.